Hello,
I'm Karina.
and I'm Jamie. Welcome to As Told by ADHD. This podcast is a brainchild of two best friends with ADHD who share a passion for learning and a knack for finding the most fascinating tidbits of knowledge.
Each week, we embark on a wild and hilarious journey of discovery as we dive headfirst into topics that pique our curiosity. From dark folklore to bizarre statistics, cultural ceremonies to famous dead people, we're here to entertain, educate, and tickle your funny bone.
Speaking of bizarre statistics, this week on As Told by ADHD, we are talking about bizarre statistics. Okay, I think it's time for the coin flip. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, heads or tails?
I'm going tails again.
I forgot what's heads and what's tails. I think this is tails. So you go first?
Let me see it.
Yeah, because this is.
I remember.
This is heads.
Yeah,
and this is
that's
tails, right. This is what it landed on. So
no, the other one was tails. The
I
tower
don't
was
think
tails.
so. Are we sure?
Yeah.
Because this looks more like a tails to me. I can go first if you want.
Let's just say that's tails. We need to make a note. The tower
Okay.
is tails. The other
Okay. So
is
then I go
don't know
first.
what's on. Yes.
It's like the Grecian map.
Map. Yeah. Map is heads. Tower is tails.
You should make that note because I will
I'm
make it.
making
and
it
then
right
not know
now.
where I put
I'm
it.
making right now.
Okay, so then I go first because it landed
Yes.
on our heads.
Heads.
Okay. All right. Statistics. So the first statistic that I chose, it is a topic that confuses me to no end. I'm literally so incredibly confused by why people believe this and why people... It blows my mind. Anyway, so my first statistic is flat earthers.
Oh my gosh.
So I did some research, right? Some of the sources that I used, the ones that seemed the most credible were the University of Melbourne. I don't know how to say that. I think it's Nautilus magazine and the University of New Hampshire. So according to the University of Melbourne, I said it wrong, Melbourne. So the University of Melbourne claim that 2/3 of Americans between 18 and 24 believe that the earth is flat. That blows my mind.
Really?
I cannot believe that's true. I cannot believe that is true. However, they say that 18 to 24% of the entire world believe that it's flat. The Nautilus magazine says 17% of the earth is not sure that the earth is round. Like they don't believe one way or the other. They're just like, I don't know, earth, we're just here, you know? And then the University of New Hampshire says 10% of Americans believe that the earth is flat, while 9% believe, or that they're unsure. So like 9% of Americans believe it's unsure, while 10% believe that it's flat. Let's talk a little bit about flat earthers and what they are. The definition of a flat earther is a person who believes or advocates the theory that the planet Earth is flat. Now, I'm going to tell you my opinion about the Earth in general.
And its shape?
The shape of the Earth. I believe that it's round. It makes the most sense to me. However, I don't care. What is it like? I don't know. If I logically think about it, the Earth is round. If I think about it as flat, it doesn't make sense, and that's okay. But that being said, it really feels like, to me, I just don't care. Like, what does it do if it... Okay.
I want to add on to that. When I was looking up a bunch of statistics, I found like really small but weird ones. And one of them states, and this is just my opinion, it's my 2 cents, One statistic says, it says 9 out of 10 people you have a conversation with want to prove to you that they're right about whatever it is they're talking about.
That goes into my next point.
Hey.
Ayo, segues. Just think about people in your life that if you have a conversation with them, if you have like so much conviction about what you're talking about, how many people in your life would believe whatever you say if you have conviction about it?
If you have conviction, I believe it's going to be majority to the lesser percent.
Right. So that makes me believe that it's really just people who have conviction about this. And then maybe there are like some people that truly factually believe this, and like obviously they say they believe it, but it makes me wonder why. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it because somebody they trust told them? Is it because somebody who they see as an influential person or someone who's just really good with talking or has a lot of charisma told them? Or okay, so I saw this documentary several years ago. I think when it first came out, it was like 2018, called Beyond the Curve. And in that documentary, it was someone going around meeting flat earthers to try to understand why they believe what they believe. And my opinion after after watching that, truly makes me believe that these people aren't believing the earth is flat because they believe the earth is flat. It makes me think that they believe the earth is flat because they don't want to be a part of a majority.
Yeah,
and
that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people
yeah.
do strive to be unique and different, to set themselves apart. It's a natural instinct, I think, for at least one portion of each individual's life.
Right. And I don't know. I just, like, if you haven't seen that, you should definitely watch it. It's worth the watch. It was really educational, and from my perspective. Like, maybe it will convince you to be a flat earther, or maybe it'll make you, like me, it made me believe or think about how people come to certain conclusions, no matter what the topic is. How do people come to certain conclusions? And it truly feels like with these people, it's less about the topic and more about being right, like you said.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, there's probably way too many studies on this to kind of dive into that. But when I was thinking about people around me, when you actually get into a conversation, because I mean, a conversation isn't just like, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, I like your shirt. Where'd you get it? That's not like if when you get in a conversation with somebody, how many times are they trying to teach you something? Like, even if it's like the way that you make coffee, it's like, I have coffee every morning. This is the coffee I use. Oh, dude, you need to try this coffee this way. It's way better, I promise.
Right.
So
yeah, and that even makes me think about a conversation I had literally this like past Thursday. In the conversation, I was talking with this guy, and I don't know how we got on the subject. I think we were just talking about Europe in general. And I ended up talking about how I recently saw, I think it was Finland, how they went from literally the worst educational system in the world to the best. And like, how did that happen? And blah, blah, blah. And so I started talking about that. And like, I don't know. I guess maybe because not that I'm trying to prove people right or prove people wrong. I just love knowledge. And so that's how I go throughout the world, is like sharing knowledge and wanting knowledge from other people and like stuff like that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, you could do an entire probably 6-part podcast on it. That was a rabbit hole I did not want to get into. But
see, me and you are different. I'm like, ooh, a rabbit hole. Let me go down in there.
Well, I'm a very much pick your battles type person. It's like, is it worth my time? Honestly.
And I'm like, I don't think about that until I'm halfway in it. Damn it. Was this worth my time? It's because I'm like kind of impulsive when it comes to stuff like that. When I'm like trying to learn something, I'm like, let me get as much information as possible. And then I'm like, whoa, how did this happen? How did I get here? Why did I choose this?
But your statistic actually kind of segues into my first statistic. Okay? Like beautifully. Nice little pretty transition into the next. My statistic that I found that I know is true but never saw a number to it was the statistics that have to do with fact checking.
You're so right.
The statistics, because you know that a person more than likely will just see something on TikTok and believe it. Or at least it'll be planted in their brains, you know? But I never saw a number to it. So when I was looking up stuff, I saw the statistics of people who don't fact check. 93%, Jamie. 93% of people do not fact check things they read on the internet.
That upsets me.
Every single website, like I can't even just pick one website. It all has to do with social media, and I can kind of dive into that just a little bit. It dives into social media a lot, but every single website is 9 out of 10 or in the 90th percentile of people do not fact check stuff that they learn. If you were to, that same guy with the coffee said, you have to try this, it's so much better, everyone thinks so, or I saw a statistic on a certain type of brew of coffee can be better for you. And it's like, oh, where'd you see that at? They can't tell you at all.
Right.
So
that reminds me of a conversation I had with your brother once when we were like debating things.
They get into
like,
so many debates, dude.
Listen, and I remember having this debate with him, and I was like, okay, where did you get that source? And he could not tell me. He was like, just look it up. And I'm like, what do you mean just look it up?
Look
like,
it up in here.
Listen, if that's your point, you need to know your point. And then he asked me like a similar question, and I was like, oh, it was this study at this time in this place and blah, blah, blah. And then like he was like, I don't know if I believe that. And I'm like, but you want me to look it up? You want me to look up your point when you're the one debating it?
Yes, this is the prime example of people who have very, very different ideas and opinions. Probably to the very end of each spectrum type ideals. And she still doesn't hate him. Does he bug her? Yes. But she doesn't hate him. So I thought that was a cool little tidbit. Anyways, but I didn't try to dive in super hard because every single website, whether it was a credible one or not, were saying essentially the same thing. Was that social media has disrupted the way that we spread news. We share news articles without really fact checking them. We comment our first ideals, or we follow the crowd. It's like, oh, how dare he, how dare he, how dare he, you know, or how dare she, or that's gross, without them even checking if it's true or not.
Right. Which makes me think about political parties and how quick some parties are to be like, oh, sheeple, blah, blah, blah. But then they are like the first one to be like, I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know.
That kind of dives into the second half of my statistic. 67% of statistics are made up.
I almost did that one. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
It kind of goes into fact checking because people will say, hey, what do you think about this? It's like, oh, I believe in this. Why do you believe in that? I saw a statistic once. And it usually ends right there. Once you hear something, you look it up, you find the general first 5 things on the search engine, and you're like, boom, I'm right. But the percentage, so if you have 5 statistics around that one subject that you're talking about, the chances are that only two of them are not only, the facts are that two of them are more than likely fabricated. The other
That's
two
hilarious.
are probably going to be exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most boring one is going to have the most base of fact. Is it going to still play into that person's opinion? Yes. But it has the most factual context. It has sources, and all articles are going to be based on emotion. My
Right.
way of kind of looking at statistics and even like any facts is that you're going to have about 3 or 4 different commentators or professors or scientists, come together with their facts and their opinions, their theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I can find, I guess, fact is to find the common denominator, which involves a lot of research.
Yeah.
So people just don't want to take that time to do it. Thus, having
Listen.
that 93% who don't fact check, and thus the 67% of articles who want to just like get clicks.
Right. Okay, listen. There is, my family, my mom, my dad, my sisters. There's a thing in our family that I don't know if I've ever shared with you, but we call it the Murray exaggeration.
I have not heard of this.
And usually, like, with my family, we exaggerate constantly, especially if it's like something so dumb like, oh, I did the dishes yesterday is the fact, right? It now becomes, I did the dishes like the last 10 times the dishes needed to be done. And like, even though that's not true, like, and we all know it's not true. It's just like how my family communicates, I guess. I don't know. But it was also funny because it was passed down through the Murray line, because my great grandfather used to do this, my grandfather used to do this, and as far as I can tell, like, everybody on that side of the family does this.
That's awesome.
So we call it the Murray exaggeration.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, and the funny thing is I almost did this one, and I was like, it would be so funny if I were to be like, come in hot being like 80% of statistics are made up, including this one. Hey, and like I was like, that would be hilarious. But I found other topics that I thought were way more interesting, so I was like, what, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I thought those ones played into each other fairly well. Of course, that means you can go into a bunch of tangents and rabbit holes and all that kind of stuff about those statistics because it's a generality. But I saw those two, and I was like, those work together. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to dive in a little bit on my opinions with that. They are opinions.
Not fact.
Things I said. I just wanted to let you know.
Although it is a fact that the Murray exaggeration exists.
And it is a fact that 9 out of 10 people do not actually fact check. You can ask anybody.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've been guilty of it. I feel like everybody's been guilty of it at some point. However, I feel like I'm more of a skeptic, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta know. So then I like just go through rabbit holes, and I'm like, ooh. Even last night, like, I had a friend over, and we were watching the new movie Boston Strangler, which, like, if anybody knows me, I love true crime. And so when this came out, I was like, hell yeah, let's watch it. Oh my God. And so I was sitting there, and like I kept seeing things that I was like, I don't remember that. And then I would look it up, and it wouldn't be like exactly factual. But like I would like throughout the movie, I was like fact checking as they were going, because it's like a fictional, like based off of the Boston Strangler. So, but it's a really good movie. It has Keira Knightley in it. 10 out of 10 would watch it. She's also so good. It's the first time I've ever heard
English accent?
Yeah. No, not English accent. The first time I've ever heard her do an American accent.
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry, not English. Like
American
English,
yeah.
American English, yes.
Yeah.
I was so shocked to hear what her voice sounds like because she has such a thick accent, in my opinion.
And she did such a good job of being a badass bitch that is like, everybody's dumb except for me. And I loved it.
Yes.
Are you ready for my next one?
Your turn.
My turn.
Get to it, woman.
If you had to make a guess of what my next statistic is going to be, what do you think it's going to be?
First one was about flat earthers, which caught me sideways because I was not thinking that you would go into historical debates. But
you know me. Come on. What do you think it's going to be?
The percentages of killers who get away with murder the first time.
Close.
Really?
Yes. Serial killers around the world.
Oh my god.
So, you know me so well.
High five.
Okay. So, let me tell you about the...
Sorry.
Keep going. I loved it. I'm thriving.
Please continue.
Okay, so the definition of a serial killer. Do you know the definition of a serial killer?
Someone who kills 3 or more people.
Claps all around. Congratulations.
My best friend's very curious with serial killers.
It's the psychology for me. Like, I need to know why. You know what I mean? Like, I just need to know why people do what they do. I don't understand it, but I want to. Anyway, so Google says that a serial killer is a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive, which I don't know where Google got this information, and typically followed by a characteristic, predictable behavioral pattern. I don't know why Google said that was a definition, because here's the real definition. A serial killer is a type of person who murders 3 or more people, with the murders taking place over more than a month and including significant periods of time in between them.
That I forgot that part, but now I remember that part.
Correct. Well, it's like, I feel like it's very important to say a serial killer is someone who kills 3 or more people with significant periods of time in between. Significant could be anywhere between a few days to a few months to a few years.
Yeah, just not in the same day necessarily, because somebody could just be on a rampage, like killing 5 people driving, you know. That doesn't make him a serial killer.
That is called a rampage killer.
Yeah, rampage is the rage.
Okay, so let's talk about the statistics about serial killers around the world. So, I had to do some math on this because for some reason it just gave me numbers and not percentages.
Lovely.
So, and most of the statistics that I found, or the numbers that I found, were based off of U.S. serial killers. Like, I couldn't find a lot, like, around the world. It would not give me a lot of information. So, I found this one source that it gave the top 20, like, most not significant. What am I trying to say? The top 20 countries with the most serial killers. That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
So, I did the math, I added them all up, and out of the top 20 countries with the most serial killers, altogether is 4,398 people that have been a serial killer.
You know,
from 1990 to now.
That's actually not really all that high considering billions of people.
True. However, do you want to try to guess what country is the highest?
I'm going to say the country with the highest serial killers is definitely going to be America.
Correct. Do you want to guess the percentage of serial killers in the U.S. versus the other top 20?
Is this from like 1 to 100?
Yeah.
I say 60% solid. Wait, higher?
Yes.
80?
A little lower.
Like 72?
That's exactly the number that I came up with.
Wait, like the exact number, correct?
Out of the top 20, the exact number correct.
That's trippy, bro.
You're just a smart cookie.
I'm a genius, certified in Jamie math.
In Jamie math, correct. And you know how much I hate math, so you know that I'm like, this is a topic that I'm passionate about. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If I did math for it. But yeah, so out of the top 20 countries, U.S. make up 72% of serial killers. 72%.
That doesn't surprise me.
Which makes that number 3,204 serial killers in the U.S. from 1900 to now that we know of.
That's insane. Yeah, all of this is like registered serial killers. This isn't people who never got caught, like
I mean, no, I think it does count some that haven't been caught, but it's like infamous ones. So like the Zodiac killer.
No,
or
yeah,
like,
but like people who are unknown.
Yeah.
Like registered as in like the media or something like that.
Right. So, and out of the US, what percentage do you think were female versus male?
Oh, there's like hella low females. I know that.
Take a stab at it.
Is this 1 to 100 again?
Yeah.
I'm going to say a solid women to men.
Mm-hmm.
The percentage of women that are serial killers are going to be like 30%. 28. Let's go.
Incorrect.
28. It's low. I know that.
It's 8.6% of U.S. serial killers are
since 1990.
Since 1990, are 8.6%. And the most active serial killers, so like the most active part of being is, I don't know, when it was most popular, I guess, was between 1970 and 1990.
That's crazy.
Right? So, let's talk about like demographics of serial killers. Do you want to try to guess the percentage of white serial killers?
Oh, like, and this is from 1990?
Yeah, to now.
I'm going to say like 85%, something really stupid high.
82% of American serial killers were white.
And they all come out of Florida. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Florida be crazy though. Florida is wild.
Florida's its own animal, honestly.
They really are.
Yeah, okay. So 82% were white, 15% were black, and 2.5% were Hispanic. So, that being said, also, let's go back to like women serial killers for a second. I'm all about equality, and I'm all about women being equal to men.
Where are you going?
So, women, we got to step up our game. Like,
oh, yeah.
So, we got to become serial killers to match the amount of men that are serial killers.
I do know a certain someone who I'll say outside of the podcast to you, but I do know a certain somebody whose mom was a serial killer, but she would prostitute herself. And she
Eileen
would
Wuornos?
murder the men. Nope. She would murder the men and take all of their belongings.
That sounds exactly like Eileen Wuornos.
It does sound a lot like most women who, not most, a lot of women who have killed men for things.
Listen.
But yeah, I do know someone whose mom is a serial killer and is in jail right now for it.
I need to know immediately. How dare you give me that information and
Later.
Fucking can't stand you. Anyway. Also, I want to preface that joke of me saying women should step up their game and be more serial killers. Please don't. Don't murder people. It's not good.
It's not good.
No, it's not good at all. So don't do that. What else do I have on serial killers? So, it was most popular around 1970s through the 1990s. Mostly because hitchhiking was super popular at that time. And just to dive into like a little of the psychology behind it, it's a lot of the time you hear people say, I just wanted to see what it felt like. And you're like, the hell? What do you mean you wanted to see what it felt like? What does that even mean?
A lot of acting on desires. I agree.
But if you really dive deep into why people like become serial killers, it is a lot of the time has to do with power.
Mm-hmm.
If not taking control of their lives and making their own decisions not based on anybody else and deciding to kill someone, or if it's power over someone. That's like majority from what I found in my years of being interested in true crime. It is most of the time has to do with some type of power. It could be sexual, it could be financial, it could be literally any type of power. But yeah. And the last thing I will say is in modern day, there are less likely to be serial killers because of technology. So you're more likely to get caught if you...
All the netizens, oh my gosh. There's so many netizens who will come to the rescue if somebody has been unrightly murdered.
Oh, yeah.
Netizens is the word for, netizens, if you don't know, is the word for the online community.
I honestly didn't know that.
Literally every single person who is on the internet, communicating through the internet, trying to figure out stuff through the internet, they're called netizens.
Armchair detectives. Well, not just that. Like, just look at like the Idaho murders that happened recently. So that guy, from what the media is saying currently, which I don't think they've told a lot of information about it because it's still an ongoing active investigation, so they're not going to release a ton of stuff. But from what I've read about it and what I've seen about it, it really seems like he was stalking someone else, preparing to have a second victim, or like a second set of victims, which is not fun. So he was prepping to be a serial killer. However, he got caught.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
like
that.
the thing about that is, even his sister was like, you know what? I think it was him. I think he murdered those kids. And like that says a lot.
If you guys want us to tell the story, we can tell the story because it is
wild.
It's about the failure of an egotistical man, which is always fun.
Right. Well, I feel like I wouldn't want to dive into that case until the actual case is over, like the actual trial is over.
I agree with that.
Which right now the trial is set for October, so I will be keeping up with that.
Same.
But yeah. Also, there's one statistic that I like didn't even think about looking up, but I should have. So, do you know the term a bristophiliac?
No. What is
so? An abristophiliac is, how do I best put this? An abristophiliac is someone who has the desire to take the worst people imaginable and try to change them. So imagine it's whatever year Columbine shooting happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those people went to jail. They started getting love letters from people. So it's these people who send love letters to murderers and sex offenders, and they are like, I can change them. So that's an abristophiliac. And I would love to, like, maybe we'll do like another bizarre statistic like in the future, like an episode about it, and that's going to be one of them, because I would love to know the percentage of abristophiliacs that are just walking about and like sending letters to these people, hoping to have a romance with them to try to change them, which is wild to me.
Right.
Why would you want to even associate?
I don't know, but your dance moves are impeccable.
Thanks. I wonder if you can hear them while I'm...
I can't hear anything. So yes, we could dive into murders and crime, true crime. We both love it. Jamie loves it more, but I do listen to at least one true crime story every single day. I have one specific person that I'll only listen to. Jamie is open to everybody's perspective because she wants to understand. I do it for like, it's so weird saying entertainment, but like if I'm like, if I'm listening to something, I would want to listen to that person tell the story, if that makes sense. Just because of the way that they speak it. But anyways, into my last statistic.
Wait, I thought we did 4.
To go soon. I only did 1.
1?
Wait, I thought we were doing 4. Like,
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
Right?
No, I thought we were doing 4 each.
I haven't done my 4th. Oh, no, I thought we were going 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ooh, nope, I guess I have more statistics.
We're going to get a part 2, 100% of bizarre statistics because of miscommunication and because we love learning things.
Although I do want to, this last one though, the one that I have, not last one, but the next one that I have, I really want to say this episode because it like blew my mind. Anyway.
Okay. So mine is short. It's not that big, but it kind of hit home a little bit. Was the percentage of adults who seek comfort from inanimate objects.
Interesting.
So, yeah, very interesting. But most of those inanimate objects are, stuffed animals. There is 1 in every 3 people. All the percentages roughly estimated to the same, like 1 in 3-ish people sleep or hold onto some sort of comfort animal or comfort blanket, regardless of the situation. So people will come home after a really hard day at work, which you don't have an inanimate object, but you have a Freddy.
I do have a Freddy.
So if you've had a hard day, what do? You get in bed or you get on the couch and you get Freddy and you hold him because it relieves, but a lot of people, they either have, I don't even want to try to go into the options really, but there's a reason why some people don't have animals. And for me, this sounds so sad, but I didn't really get hugged on a lot growing up, but I was very attached to stuffed animals. I would hug the heck out of them. But yeah, 1 in 3 people still sleep, as adults, still sleep with a comfort animal. A stuffed animal, a blanket, generally those 2 things. I have a Care Bear that I still sleep with. She's about to say her age.
She said her age. I'm gonna bleep that out. Listen, I'm gonna bleep it out.
Just do like the boop. Do the dolphin noise, like in SpongeBob.
That's my dolphin.
But I still sleep with a stuffed animal I got when I was raised in a certain state, because I just don't want to give out too much personal information. I was about to move, and my childhood best friend and I were hanging out for the last time, and she gave me a almost 2-foot tall Care Bear, Sunshine Bear, the yellow one. And it's like in the shape of a pillow, really. It's like not a typical Care Bear stuffed animal that you think of. It's not. It's like more of a made at home kind of version of it. You've seen it before.
Oh, I definitely have.
Seen it before.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 foot tall. It's Sunshine Bear, and I still sleep with that bear to this day, and so does my little boy. So does my little boy. I don't care. So we sleep with that together, and I will probably never let it go. Probably until I'm an old granny. So I love it. But yeah, that was a really short one, but it also brought me comfort because a lot of people also do that.
Yeah, I actually can think of somebody else. I can think of somebody else in my life that, like, I know for a fact has, like, a ton of stuffed animals. And she is a delight of a person, and I miss her so much. Because she moved across the world.
Ugh. Shame on her.
I know.
But yeah, so that statistic, it wasn't as high. I thought this was very interesting. It wasn't as high before COVID hit. So the percentage actually increased when COVID hit. The amount of people, the amount of adults who sleep with comfort animals, with stuffed animals.
That
because everybody was alone.
I was not expecting that. Wow.
I thought that was very, very, very interesting. So men, women, other people in the world, they sought comfort if they weren't lucky enough to be with, or some were unfortunate, but if they didn't have another person with them, they would go online and buy a comfort animal.
That's crazy.
That's when they started. So the percentage rose significantly during COVID.
Wow. I never would have guessed that at all.
And then I have one more thing that the internet was just trying to hit my ego. I don't really have one, but the ego that I did have, or I do have, I guess, did, RIP, after the statistic, was was pretty much telling me that I was going to be poor for the rest of my life, and I have to just deal with it. The rise of billionaires. There's now over 4,000 something billionaires, so the chances of you becoming a billionaire is almost none unless you were to inherit. That's a fun fact.
So what you're telling me is that we all need to get sugar daddies.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If anybody wants to apply to be our sugar daddies, nothing sexual, just give me money. Thank you.
And then the statistic went to the person that everybody has either a really fond or very not fond attitude towards, is Mr. Elon Musk. Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell what my attitude about him is, but
you could make $295,000 every single day since the birth of Christ, and you still wouldn't have the amount of money that he's worth.
Listen, I think he is the dumbest smart man in the world. And
I agree with that.
I don't understand how he got to where he was. And I will never understand.
I think he got there with his brain.
But also his daddy's
women
money.
threw himself at him.
Why?
There are a lot of girls who essentially just want a sugar daddy. It's easier for them to, unfortunately, use their assets,
that's true.
To make a decent living. Because there's not the statistics of, this is another thing, the statistics of women and men even being able to afford a house on their own, like right out of college, is non-existent without any financial help, just on their own in their own career. It's essentially non-existent, just because the price of housing, the economy with income and wages, it's terrible. But in that statistic about Elon, is if we're gonna say you could make $295,000 every day since Christ was born. He was born, they say, roughly between 6 and 8 BC. I think that was what it was, BC. Yeah. It was the year when King Herod died, and that's in the Bible. I mean, if you don't... This is just to give some context. We're in 2023. That's a really long time, and you still wouldn't have the same amount of money that Elon Musk is worth.
Damn, dude.
So we're poor. We're some poor humans.
Damn.
Yeah, it's so sad. Anyways, those were my statistics. I went kind of deep onto one, and then I went kind of light on the other two, and then I found some fun facts that are really cool, but I want to hear your next statistic. So we'll do, I guess, 5, because you said it blew your mind, so now I need to know.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my last statistic is, listen, dude, this one really, it's a phenomenon that I cannot explain. I don't know how it happens, but we're going to talk about folie à deux. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Folie à
What
deux,
is that?
it's French and it translates to madness of two. It is a delusional or mental illness, or a delusion or mental illness that's shared by two people that are in close association. So there are a lot of famous cases. I would absolutely love to like dive deeper into this about certain cases. The first case that really comes to mind that I really like formed this opinion about folie à deux were these two twins that they were like on vacation somewhere. They hadn't talked in a while, but then they started talking again. They went on vacation together, and then all hell broke loose. And I would love to tell you that story one day. But okay, so basically, it can involve hallucinations. It can involve different like thought processes that people share that, and like, okay, so usually with folie à deux, there's two types of folie à deux. There's primary and there's secondary. The primary is the one that kind of initiates the delusion or the mental illness. The secondary is the one that follows suit. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just kind of talk about it. Most of this information is going to come from the National Library of Medicine. They conducted a systematic review of literature of all cases reporting on this phenomenon between 1993 to 2005. And the results were there were 64 cases identified within 1993 and 2005. And it doesn't say where these were like found. It just says that they were found between these time periods. So there could be more there than that, but from this specific study, it was 64 cases. And it says that between 1942 and 1993, there were 72 cases. And the primary age, it ranged between 9 and 81 for like the primary case. And the mean age was around 48. And for the secondary case, it was between 10 and 81. And the mean age for that was 42. And between 1993 and 2005, there were 64 cases, like I said earlier. And the mean age was around 52 for the primary. And for the secondary, it was around 45. And there wasn't a lot of discrepancies between gender. So, like, it was pretty close to 50-50 between genders of men and women being the primary versus being the secondary. This is what kind of blew my mind. So, the nature of the relationship had a lot of impact on this. So, the way that I'm going to say this is I'm going to say the primary first, then the secondary, and then how many cases. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, husband primary, wife secondary. Between 1942 and 1993, there were 10 cases. In 1993 to 2005, there were 12. So that's husband primary, wife secondary. With wife primary and husband secondary, between 1942 to 1993, it was 8 cases. 1993 to 2005, 10 cases. Parent-child, so parent primary, child secondary, was 19 cases between 1942 and 1993, and then 1993 to 2005 was 6 cases. And in between 1992 and 1993, there were no recorded cases of child parent, so child being the primary and the parent being the secondary.
That makes sense.
But in 1993 to 2005, there were 2 recorded cases where the child was the primary and the parent was the secondary, which I thought was crazy, but also like not too.
I want to know I want to know the story.
Right. But this is the one that I know the most about because I've only ever heard it being siblings. So siblings.
Siblings and, well, twins for me, because I didn't know the phrase for it, but I know stories about twins.
Right. So I feel like between 1942 and 1993, there were 18 cases of siblings and 3 cases of twins, which I feel like for the most part with sibling cases or with twin cases in particular, I feel like they're going to be the most looked at and the most publicized because they are twins, and there's this phenomenon of like twins sharing thoughts. Like people believe that twins,
twin telepathy.
Yeah. People believe twins have a connection that you cannot replicate anywhere else, which honestly makes sense to me. Like I don't know either way because I'm not a twin. And if I were a twin, I would not be a twin. So you can't really put in that experience where you don't have it, you know?
Right.
And then in 1993 to 2005, sibling cases were 11 cases, and 5 of those cases were twins. They were I think all the twins were female. There were 10 sisters, like sister cases, and 1 brother involved in that. So it's predominant in women.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting.
And then with friends, between 1942 to 1993, 6 cases were found, and between 1993 and 2005, there was 1 case found between friends, which blows my mind, honestly. Like,
I was gonna say, like, that, I feel like friends is such a niche thing because they have to either have like really bad attachment issues or they must not have, I don't know, like the mentality, like a submissive personality type situation. Like in mine, in your case, I have a family who like to stay very close knit, and so do you, but we are very bonded in like a really freaky way. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we fucked some shit up, honestly.
Honestly, I like nothing against
air and fire over here.
Ayo. But I feel like if this were to ever happen, which I don't think it would because we're both fairly mentally stable and like,
yes,
and we both go to therapy and we're living our best lives, or trying to at least.
Yes.
I feel like I would end up being the primary and you'd be like, well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. And then you'd just kind of be like, okay, let's do it.
Right. No, I agree with that, especially because in lots of cases you have definitely been like the more powerful personality. We're working on it, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to get you to
We're working on it.
Trying to get you to be the goddess that you are, but whatever.
I know. The holistic psychologist is helping me do the work, okay? So I'm trying to meet myself right now, and she's trying to get a voice. And my mom actually told me the other day, because we had recently gotten an argument. We've never gotten an argument. And she stated out loud, she said, well, now I'm scared of my daughter because she's so blunt and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, progress. Like, I don't want my mom to be scared of me, but at the same time, I want her to know that I'm going to put down boundaries, you know?
Yeah, you need to have that respect. You are an adult. Like,
exactly.
You deserve respect, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing with your life. I don't believe in not respecting someone based off of their title to you. So, like, with parents versus children, I don't think that children deserve less respect because we're all humans. And the same with, like, siblings. Just because one sibling's older doesn't mean that sibling deserves respect over other siblings. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I believe everybody's equal and everybody deserves respect until they give you a reason not to.
I agree with
that.
But
I don't know.
But unfortunately, that's not how the world is.
Yeah, that's true.
Very much. We all have the mentality of like, oh, life would be easier if like XYZ, but we're all just trying to stay alive, essentially.
Basically.
Staying alive. I learned in CPR class. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so here are some risk factors of reasons why they believe this happens. It seems like social isolation is the number one risk factor of like, if
that makes a lot of sense.
Right, if these two are socially isolated with each other, it's very likely that they're going to start believing the same thing, and anything could happen based off of that. There's also cognitive impairment, language difficulties, which I don't really understand that one. I would love to like dig more into that. Maybe being in a place, probably in my spare time, because I just randomly look up stuff all the time. But if I were to like guess based off of like context clues off of that, it would maybe like somebody going to a different country and like not being able to speak the language or communicate, and so they're again socially isolated. So then they start believing things, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's probably the number one way to get somebody to mentally. Mm-hmm. I mean, in all cases of mental manipulation, it does come from dominant personality and isolation. Yeah. So that makes complete sense.
Right. Let's see what else. Other fun things. They also believe certain medications have this effect. And the reason why they believe that is because some of the cases that come through are people who are already in psych wards, and they are either taking the same medication or spending a lot of time together, and then it just ends up happening based off of that. But yeah.
Medicines are a whole new atmosphere as well.
True.
But that's a
true, very true.
That I don't even know if I want to dive into that one. That one would whew. Anyways.
I think that the only other thing that I wanted to like say about it is kind of talk about the first case, that the reason like why it got named Folie à Deux. So basically the first case started with these two sisters. One sister started working as a maid for this family in, I forget what year it was. This is all coming from my memory, so I don't remember what year it was, but it was like when maids were still around. This was in France. And these two women, they were sisters. One woman started working for this family as a maid, and then after working for several months, she was like, hey, can my sister have a job? And they were like, sure, why not? We could use another maid. And so they hired on the sister. They started working together. And they claimed that these people, or not these people, they claimed that the people they were working for were abusing them in several ways. They claimed that the man who lived in the house was sexually abusing them, while the wife was physically abusing them and occasionally like using sexual abuse as a punishment. So like using things to like do gross things. So they slowly, that's what they said happened. They slowly started sharing the same madness, and they were like, oh my God, everybody's out to get us, blah, blah, blah. And there ended up being like an incest element between the sisters, and like it was a crazy case. But nobody knows exactly what the delusion was, from what I remember. But basically, they were like, we have to kill these people. So they ended up killing the whole family except the father, who wasn't at home when it happened. And they did some horrible things, like horrible, like scary, horrible things to these people. And they tortured them and then killed them. And it's usually, like, from what I know about these cases, it's usually these people, primary and secondary, believing everybody's out to get them.
That makes sense. Like a delusion. maybe like schizophrenic tendencies, certain types
Right.
of schizophrenic tendencies. That makes sense.
Yeah. And
Like something is convincing them,
right.
or they hear something that's telling them,
Mm-hmm. Which it also makes sense if one twin, if it is twins, if one twin has that, then another twin has that. But that first case, they were just sisters. They weren't twins.
Gotcha.
However,
but they both went through like the same abuse, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also we don't know exactly what happened in that home. We don't know if they were abused or if they were using that as an excuse, or I mean, I prefer to believe them because in my mind, I guess that makes it more justifiable what they did. But at the same time, I don't want to justify
isolation, abuse, powerful personalities, like power tripping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty much beating them into submissiveness.
Right. But then it also...
Which we're not justifying.
No,
you still
no.
did a crime.
You still did a crime, do the time, blah, blah, blah. But it also makes me think of, and this one's like the most fascinating case in my opinion, are the sisters that they like were on vacation in Britain and they just kind of snapped and they were like, oh, everybody's out to get us. They ended up like throwing away their phones. I think they got burner phones. They started running across the highway and one of them got hit by a truck, got taken to the hospital. The other one also went back and tried to get hit by a truck. And then it was wild. And then one of them ended up stabbing this guy. It was crazy.
Jeez.
I know. I'll have to tell that whole story. But it's wild, dude. And their delusion was everybody's out to get them. And one of them had kids and a husband. And I think not the one that got hit by the truck, but the other one ended up dying for some reason. Ended up putting herself in a situation where she couldn't, where she got hurt and she didn't survive. Mm-hmm. But the one that got hit by a truck, and I'm not talking about a normal everyday used truck, a Mack truck, straight up hit by a Mack truck. And there's video of it too, because at that time there's you know how in America there's Cops, the TV show. Mm-hmm. They had a British version, and they happened to respond to that call with the camera crew following them, so they got this all on footage, which is crazy.
So there's a video somewhere out there by a woman, of a woman getting smashed with an 18-wheeler. No,
because she had already gotten hit, but the other sister's running around trying to get hit by a car, and they're trying to stop her, and they're what's happening? And it's crazy, dude.
That's insane.
Right.
That's absolutely insane.
But that is Folie à Deux, and I would love to do an episode where I tell stories about Folie à Deux. And then just a nice little bow to kind of lighten the mood, because that was kind of heavy. I did have one more statistic, and it's really quick. In 2020, 27% of people celebrating Valentine's Day said they bought gifts for their pets. So.
And she just bought her pet a gift, which he's on right now. He has his own little, I don't even know what you would call it, but he is chilling.
It's a couch.
It's like a lounger couch, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't
a lounge couch.
It was not a Valentine's Day gift. It was just a housewarming gift that I got for him, because he wanted to look out of the windows.
We'll see you guys next week.
The windows are pretty low.
Bye.
But I didn't have anything for him to sit on where he could see out of the windows. But yeah, now he could just sit there and just look out the window and see stuff.
I did it.
You did it.
Just be a puggy.
Beautiful.
I did
That's it. He's having a great time.